The stars above the alien jungle shimmered like cold diamonds in a black sea. Carter sat beside a small fire, his boots muddy, his shoulders tired, and his mind spinning with questions. His mission on the planet Virellia Prime was supposed to be simple: study local customs, collect samples, build trust, then leave. But nothing felt simple anymore, especially when it came to her. Virellia sat just a few feet away from him, her pale lavender skin glowing under the moonlight. She was quiet as always, her long silver hair tied back, her violet eyes watching the fire. Not him, but Carter could feel her presence like gravity, pulling at his chest. He didn't understand why she affected him so much. Maybe it was her calm voice, or the way she always understood him even when translators failed. Or maybe it was the way she looked at him, like he wasn't just a visitor, but someone who belonged, someone important. They had spent weeks working together. She had guided him through deadly forests, showed him which plants were safe, warned him of traps. She never smiled much, but when she did, it made his whole day better. Now, under the stars, after a long mission day, the silence between them wasn't awkward. It was soft, warm, full of something unspoken. Carter glanced at her, then looked away quickly. He felt stupid, like a teenager trying to impress a girl, but this wasn't Earth, and she wasn't just any girl. Virellia turned to him slowly, her voice soft. "You are quiet tonight." Carter chuckled. "I guess I'm thinking too much." She tilted her head. "About your home." He hesitated, then shook his head. "About this place, and about you." Her eyes widened slightly, not in fear, but surprise. She didn't reply, but her cheeks darkened a faint blush on alien skin. Carter smiled nervously. "You know, on Earth, when two people feel close, they sometimes kiss." Virellia blinked, her eyes sharp but curious. "Yes, I have read that." He leaned in slightly, watching her expression. "Can I show you?" His heart pounded like war drums in his chest. For a moment, time stood still. Then, as he moved closer, just inches from her lips, she whispered something so unexpected it froze him mid-motion. "You already did." Carter blinked, confused. "What?" Virellia's eyes dropped to the ground, and her voice trembled. "3 nights ago, during the storm, you touched my face, remember?" He thought back. Yes, the night the lightning struck close. She had panicked, and he had cupped her face, gently, calming her down. "Just a kind gesture, right? That touch under the moonlight." She continued softly. "In my culture, it means a bond, not just emotional, but sacred." Carter's throat went dry. "Wait, you're saying?" "Yes," she interrupted, her eyes now locked with his. "You claimed me as your life mate." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Carter sat back, stunned. "Married? To an alien girl? All because he touched her face?" "I didn't know," he whispered. "I was just trying to help." "I know," she said, voice calm, but full of sadness. "But my people won't see it that way." Carter's mind raced. What had he done? Was this real? Was it fixable? And why did a small part of him not want to fix it? He stared at Virellia, truly seeing her for the first time, not just as a guide or assistant, but as someone strong, someone loyal, someone his. And somehow he wasn't angry. He was scared but not angry. "I didn't mean to bind you," he said quietly. She gave a tiny nod. "But you did." Her voice shook slightly. "And if you reject me, it will shame me before my clan. They may banish me." Her hands trembled, her calm mask cracking. "I'm sorry, Carter. I should have told you earlier." He watched her silently, his heart torn. All of this over a single touch. All of this because he tried to be kind. And now, without planning, without ceremony, he had a wife according to alien law, and she looked like she was ready to be cast out if he didn't accept her. Carter took a deep breath. "Virellia," he said, "if this bond is real to you, then I won't shame you." Her eyes met his again, glowing softly in the dark. "I don't understand everything yet," he admitted, "but I won't leave you alone in this." She didn't cry, but her lip trembled, and when he gently reached out to take her hand this time, she didn't pull away. Instead, she whispered just one word: "Husband." Carter's heart pounded harder than ever before, and he knew then his mission had just taken a new, impossible and beautiful turn. Carter woke up early the next morning, still lying on his bedroll outside the tribal camp, his eyes opened to a pink sky, birds with crystal wings flying above. But his heart wasn't thinking about beauty. It was thinking about last night. Virella's words kept echoing in his mind. You already claimed me. And then that final soft word she called him, husband. He sat up, ran a hand through his hair, and stared at the strange horizon. The trees here glowed slightly in the morning, the air warm and sweet. Everything around him was alien. But now, things felt even more unreal. He hadn't meant to hurt anyone. He certainly hadn't meant to marry someone. Virella approached quietly, carrying a cup made of leaf and filled with warm root tea. She didn't say anything, just handed it to him, and sat nearby. Her presence felt different now, like something had shifted forever. Carter broke the silence. I still don't get it. I just touched your face, that's all. Virella gave a faint smile. For you, it was comfort. For me, it was a vow. He blinked. How just touching? She nodded. Under moonlight, during a moment of shared emotion, if one being touches the other's heart line. She gently pointed to the space between her lower cheek and jaw. It is the same as speaking marriage vows in front of the elders. Carter stared at her, dumbfounded. I didn't know. I mean, we don't even have that custom on Earth. I know, she replied calmly. That's why I didn't stop you. He frowned. But you didn't tell me either. Virella looked away, her voice lower. I thought, perhaps it would fade, or maybe you'd never remember. But when you tried to kiss me, I knew you felt something too. Carter groaned softly and stood up, pacing in front of the dying fire. This is crazy. He muttered, my people will never understand. They'll say I broke protocol. She stood too, her voice firmer now, and mine will say I am bound. They will not question your act, only my reaction to it. Just then, a loud horn sounded from the nearby hilltop. Carter turned, startled. Virella sighed. They are calling us to the declaration circle. What for? He asked, though part of him already guessed. To witness the joining, she said, the public acknowledgement of our bond. Carter's heart dropped into his boots. They're going to hold a wedding? Yes, she said gently, and if we do not appear, it will bring dishonor. Moments later, they stood at the edge of a large stone circle carved with ancient glowing symbols. Aliens from the tribe surrounded them, tall, armored, feathered, old and young. They cheered, whistled, and some threw petals made of shining metal leaves to them. This wasn't odd. It was a day of celebration to Carter. It felt like stepping into a dream he hadn't agreed to, but couldn't wake up from either. The tribal elder stepped forward, an ancient alien female with vines woven into her hair and eyes like burning amber. She raised her hands, speaking in the native tongue. Virella translated quietly. She asks if we are both willing. Carter looked at Virella, then the crowd, then back at her again. I don't know if I'm ready, he whispered, but I won't humiliate you. Her eyes softened, and she gave the tiniest nod. Carter turned to the elder and placed his palm over his heart, mimicking the local gesture of honor. The crowd roared with approval, and just like that, the ceremony began. Two alien children walked up and wrapped their hands together with a glowing vine. The energy from the vine pulsed lightly round their skin, then faded, leaving a small glowing mark on Carter's wrist. Virella had one too. On her own wrist, a pale blue ring that shimmered like starlight. The elder declared their bond complete. To Carter's horror and strange wonder, the entire tribe bowed to him. Later, back at the tent, Carter finally let out a breath he'd been holding all morning. That was a lot, he said, sitting heavily on a stone bench. Virella knelt beside the fire, preparing food, and said quietly, you handled it with grace. He looked at her, really looked. Do you actually want this? Us? She paused, then slowly turned to face him. My people believe in fate, in signs, in unspoken truths. I don't know what love means to humans, she continued, but I know I feel safe when you are near. Carter's chest tightened. He had come to study an alien world, but ended up entangled in its oldest custom. And the strange part was he didn't hate it. There was something grounding about Virella, something real. He took a deep breath, walked over, and sat beside her. I didn't expect this, he said, but maybe it's not the worst thing that could have happened. She looked up at him, blinking. Is that a yes? Carter smiled slowly. It's a start. And this time, when their hands touched, no one misunderstood. because now they both knew what it meant. The next morning, Carter woke up to the sound of soft humming. The air was thick with the scent of wild fruit and warm stone. Virellia was outside the tent, sitting quietly, weaving something out of golden vines. For a moment, Carter just watched her through the flap, the way her fingers moved, her calm breathing, her peaceful expression. It didn't feel like a stranger's world anymore. It felt like something else, something closer to home. But his peace didn't last long. As he stepped out, a young alien boy raced toward them, out of breath. Holding a stone scroll tied with bone string, he handed it to Virellia, who slowly unrolled it, her expression freezing. She didn't look at Carter as she said in a low voice, "He has challenged you." Carter blinked. "Who?" She looked up, eyes filled with worry. "Rothan, the warrior who once sought my hand." Carter frowned. "Let me guess, your ex?" Virellia nodded once. "He doesn't believe our bond is true, and he has the right to test it." Carter groaned and ran a hand through his hair. "And what does testing involve?" She looked at him with guilt. The trial of blood. Later that day, they stood at the edge of a red arena carved from living stone. 1,000 aliens stood in circles around it, chanting, drumming, whispering. Rothan stepped into the center, 7 feet tall, shoulders wide, armor made from beast bone. His claws were painted with war ink, and he held a curved blade that glowed with dark light. He didn't look at Carter. He stared at Virellia with possessive eyes. "You chose him," he growled, "this soft-skinned outsider." She didn't choose. Carter stepped in. "I did." A murmur passed through the crowd. No human had ever spoken that boldly during a sacred trial. Carter wasn't sure what he was doing, but his instincts told him one thing: he couldn't let her face this alone, not after everything. Not after the way she looked at him, with hope and fear in her eyes. Virellia touched his arm. "You don't have to do this, I know," he said softly, "but I want to." Rothan snarled and pointed the blade at him. "When I'm done, your bond will be ash, and she will be mine again." Carter gave him a half smile. "You talk too much." The fight began with no signal, just instinct. Rothan lunged, his blade slicing through air. Carter dodged, barely, stumbling backward. He had no weapon, just his fists and a long stick. He had grabbed before entering. The crowd laughed, thinking it would be over in seconds. But Carter was faster than he looked. He ducked, rolled, and used the stick to trip Rothan's legs. The alien crashed down hard. Surprised, Carter backed off, breathing hard. "That all you got?" Rothan roared, blood flying from his mouth. He charged again, swinging wide. But Carter ducked and jabbed him in the ribs, not strong enough to break bone, but enough to make him hesitate. The crowd had gone silent now. No one expected a human to last this long, let alone stand his ground. But Carter wasn't fighting for glory. He was fighting for Virellia, for the bond that surprised him, scared him, but somehow mattered more than anything now. Rothan growled, this time more focused. He tried to trap Carter with a spin move, slashing across his chest. Carter yelped as the blade grazed him, blood soaking his shirt, but he didn't stop. Instead, he slammed his stick against Rothan's knee, then jabbed his throat with the other end. The alien warrior dropped his weapon, choking, gasping. Carter kicked it away and pinned him down. Breathing hard, Rothan reached for a hidden dagger, but Carter already had it. He raised it and then paused. The crowd watched in total silence, waiting for the kill. But Carter threw the dagger to the ground and stepped back. "No," he said firmly. "I don't need to kill you to prove anything." Rothan lay there, stunned. The elder stepped forward slowly. "You showed strength, but also mercy." Carter looked at her, blood on his face, but eyes clear. "I'm not here to steal her," he said. "I'm here because I care." The elder looked at Virellia, then nodded. "Let it be known," she said loudly, "that the bond is true." The crowd erupted into cheers, but all Carter heard was Virellia running toward him. She grabbed his arm, her eyes wet. "I told you not to fight." He smiled weakly. "I never listen." She touched his wound, then hugged him tightly. "You are foolish," she whispered, "but you are mine." Carter leaned into her touch, exhausted but proud. He wasn't just some outsider anymore. He was hers, and she was already part of him. Carter sat inside the healer's tent, shirt half open, bandages pressed against his ribs. The alien salve stung, But it wasn't the pain that made him wince, it was the quiet. Outside, the tribe still celebrated, the chants and drums echoing across the valley, but Carter didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had stepped into something bigger than himself, something sacred, something dangerous. Virellia sat beside him, carefully tying the bandages. Her hands were steady, but her eyes were worried. "You bled too much," she whispered. "One wrong move and he would have killed you." Carter gave a dry chuckle. "You think that's the first time I've done something stupid?" She didn't smile, not even a little. "You're not just anyone now," she said, her voice soft but serious. "You're my chosen, my bonded." He looked at her, really looked. There was no fear in her gaze, no doubt, only truth, only something ancient and powerful between them. He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, forehead gently touching his. Their connection pulsed like a heartbeat, and the vines on their wrists shimmered faintly, glowing with a soft blue light. But peace didn't last. A new messenger arrived, this one from the human command base at Sector 9, a young officer, pale with sweat and panic, handed Carter a data scroll. "Sir," he said, "you've been summoned." Carter frowned. "Summoned? For what?" The officer swallowed. "Violation of interspecies protocol, unauthorized bonding, and political interference." Virellia's head snapped up, her expression turning cold. Carter stood slowly, his ribs aching. "So that's how they thank someone for saving peace," he muttered. The officer lowered his eyes. "They want you off this planet." Immediately, that night, Carter sat on the edge of the cliff near the temple ruins, staring at the stars. Virellia stood behind him, arms crossed, her face unreadable. "You're leaving," she said without asking. "They're forcing me." He answered, "Unless I obey, they'll shut down the entire mission." Virellia stepped forward. "Then I will go with you." Carter turned sharply. "You can't just leave your people." "I would leave the stars themselves if it meant staying with you," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held fire. "You are my husband by right, by spirit, by bond, and I will not let the humans erase that." Carter looked at her, his chest tight. "I don't want to cause a war," he said quietly. "Then don't walk away from peace," she replied. "Stay and face them, with me, at dawn." Carter and Virellia walked into the human command center together. The room fell silent, eyes staring at the alien girl holding the human's hand. The commander stood, cold and angry. "This is a diplomatic disaster," he snapped. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Carter stepped forward, keeping his voice calm. "I didn't plan for this to happen," he said, "but I won't deny what it is. She's not some specimen, not a case file, not a threat. She's my partner." The room buzzed with murmurs, but Carter wasn't finished. "You want to talk about protocol?" he continued. "Then let's talk about honor, about trust. She saved me more times than I can count. Stood by me when your own staff abandoned the post during the storm. She didn't hesitate, even when her own people doubted us." He turned to Virellia, his voice gentler. "And I would rather be exiled from 10,000 planets than betray what we have." Virellia stepped forward now, lifting her chin. "I offer unity, not division," she declared in perfect English, her voice echoing. "Our bond was not an accident, it was destiny, witnessed by stars and ancestors, and if your leaders cannot see that, then perhaps your species is not ready for peace at all." The commander sat back, silent. Other officers exchanged glances, unsure, uncomfortable. Shaken, one woman near the console whispered, "She speaks like royalty." "She is," Carter replied. "You just never asked." In the end, the council didn't expel Carter. They couldn't, not after the tribe sent their own delegation to protest the threat. Not after thousands across the galaxy started hearing the story of the human who won an alien's heart, not with power, but with courage. Suddenly, Carter was no longer a rule breaker. He was a symbol of hope, of change. That night, back at the tribal village, the stars above burned brighter than before. Virellia lay beside him, her head on his chest. "You face them all," she whispered. Even when it was easier to run, Carter smiled into her hair. "I didn't just fight Rothan," he said. "I fought my own fear." She looked up at him, eyes glowing in the moonlight. "And who won?" He kissed her forehead gently. "You did." The rains came down hard, thick as glass, pounding the tribal rooftops and shaking the sky. Carter stood in the open temple courtyard, his jacket soaked, hair plastered to his face. But he didn't care, not today, because Virella's mother was dying. The elder priestess had collapsed suddenly after a sunrise ritual. Her breathing had grown shallow, and her skin, normally glowing with spiritual energy, had faded to a dull, lifeless gray. Dozens of alien healers surrounded her. Speaking in panic tones, they tried every herb, every chant, every known tribal technique. But nothing worked. Virella knelt beside her mother's still form, eyes wide with fear but hands steady. "She needs energy," one of the elder healers said. "Her life spark is fading," another added. "But we've done everything." Carter pushed through the crowd, his boots splashing through shallow puddles. "What if you haven't tried everything?" he said, his voice sharp. The healers turned to him unsure. "You speak as if you have more to offer than sacred touch," one of them growled. Carter held up a small device, a human medkit. It looked simple, but inside was years of earth science. Nanite stimulants, regenerative compounds, plasma-infused blood mesh. "Let me try," he said firmly. "I've patched soldiers back from the edge of death." The crowd parted slowly, still unsure. Virella looked up at him, her lips trembling. "Please, Carter," she whispered, "do something." He knelt down, scanned her mother with the portable device. The results were bad organ failure, energy core collapse, fluid imbalance. The alien body was complex, but not impossible to help. He injected the nanites first, then activated the stabilizer pulse. The body jerked slightly. Her fingers twitched, but her eyes stayed closed. "Come on," Carter muttered, "stay with us." He adjusted the pulse rhythm, manually sensed it. To her body's spiritual vibration, something he had learned from Virella weeks ago. During a meditation trial, he matched breath with breath, pressure with pulse, and whispered words not in English, but in the alien tongue Virella had taught him. "You are not alone, Elder. Come back. Your daughter still needs you." A long moment passed. Then, her eyes fluttered open, dim but alive. Gasps rose from the healers. Virella cried out, grabbing her mother's hand. "She's awake," she whispered. "You did it." Carter leaned back, exhausted, drenched, shaking, but he smiled through it. "Not me," he said softly. "We did it later, after the rain stopped and the healers left." Virella found him sitting alone by the edge of the lake. He didn't look up when she approached. "I didn't do it for praise," he said quietly. "I just didn't want you to lose her." Virella sat beside him, her voice low. "I know." There was silence between them, warm and heavy. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a small crystal, soft blue with gold lines inside. It pulsed with a quiet heartbeat-like glow. "This," she said, "is the bind stone." Carter looked at it, confused. She continued, "It is only given once in a lifetime, a gift of total devotion, shared only between bonded souls. When the heart speaks louder than words." He stared at it, realization dawning slowly. "You want me to take it?" Virella nodded. "If you hold it, we are bound not just by accident, not by ritual, but by choice." Carter's breath caught. He wasn't sure what to say. Part of him wanted to reach out immediately, but another part, one that remembered Earth, remembered duty, remembered the cold steel walls of command, hesitated. "I want to," he whispered, "but this makes it real, doesn't it?" "It already is," Virella replied, her voice trembling, "but this makes it unbreakable." Just then, a strange vibration passed through the ground. Carter stood up sharply. What was that? Virella looked behind her, eyes narrowing. On the far cliffs, dust rose as figures appeared in the distance. Human rescue mechs, tall, armed, and fast-moving. "They're here," Carter said under his breath. "Your people?" Virella asked, her tone careful. "Yes," Carter nodded, "but I didn't call them." The mechs approached rapidly, their footsteps like thunder. They stopped just short of the camp. Loudspeakers activating. "Lieutenant Carter," a voice boomed. "Step forward, unarmed." Carter's eyes locked with Virella's. In one hand, the bind stone still glowed softly. In the other, his communicator buzzed with incoming orders. And in between, his heart pounded with a single question. Was he ready to choose her, not by mistake, not by fate, but by his own will? Carter stood frozen, the blue bind stone glowing in his palm. in the other hand. His comlink buzzed with urgent orders from the human fleet above, around him. The tribal camp was quiet, tense, watching, unsure what the human would do. Behind him, Virellia stood still, her eyes not on the soldiers but on him. She didn't beg, didn't plead. She just waited, holding her breath. "Lieutenant Carter," the voice repeated from the mech speaker. Louder this time. "Step forward, hands in the air." He slowly turned toward the human machine's 3 towering rescue mechs, armed with pulse rifles. Faces lit by scanners, each one marked with EarthGov insignias. These weren't just soldiers. They were here to extract him, by force, if needed. The lead pilot stepped out, helmet down. Jaw clenched. "You've breached code 7 to 9, he said, voice sharp. "Unauthorized alien bonding. Transfer of tech to non-Federation natives, and direct. Violation of diplomatic neutrality." Carter didn't respond. The soldier raised an eyebrow. "Well?" Carter raised the bind stone, letting its blue light pulse in his hand. "This," he said, voice calm but firm, "is not a weapon, it's a promise." The soldier stared at the crystal, unimpressed. "Save it for the tribunal," he said. Coldly, "You're coming with us. And the alien, she's to be quarantined." Carter's jaw clenched. "Quarantined?" "Until further evaluation," the soldier replied. "Standard for high-contact cases." The word hit him like a punch to them. Virellia wasn't a person. She was a case, a risk. A footnote in a report. Carter looked back at her, her face unreadable, but her eyes full of quiet pain. She had known this might happen. She had still given him the bind stone. She chose him, knowing he might not choose her back. And now, the whole world waited. The humans, the tribe, the stars, even the gods in their forgotten shrines. Everyone waited for his answer. He took a deep breath, then dropped the communicator. Into the mud, the soldiers raised their rifles. "Lieutenant, don't be stupid." Carter stepped in front of Virellia and held up the bind stone. "I won't let you touch her," he said, his voice shaking but unbroken. "You'll have to shoot me first." The mechs hesitated. They were trained to follow orders, but not like this. One of them lowered his weapon slightly. "Sir, this is insane." "No," Carter replied. "It's finally sane." Behind him, Virellia reached out and gently placed her fingers over his. The bind stone pulsed brighter, a humming sound rising from it like a low chant. The light spread across their skin, forming glowing vines that wrapped around their joined hands. It was more than symbolic. It was living energy, the same force that had healed her mother, the same force that could now be seen by human tech scanners. Suddenly, their bond was real on all levels: spiritual, emotional, and scientific. Inside one of the mech cockpits, the scanner beeped wildly. "Captain," the pilot said nervously, "this bond, it's not just cultural. There's biofeedback, DNA sync, nervous system mirroring. This is permanent." The commander cursed under his breath. "Deny the link, remove the native, and suppress the news," he ordered. But even as he said it, the mech pilots hesitated, because what they were seeing didn't look like a crime. It looked like love. Carter stepped forward again, still holding Virellia's hand. "You can shoot me," he said, "or you can listen, but you will not break this." A long pause followed. Then one of the mechs powered down its weapons. Another took a step back, lowering his head slightly. The third just stared, uncertain, fingers frozen over the trigger. Carter turned to Virellia, whispering, "If they take me, promise me you'll keep fighting." But she shook her head and said softly, "I go where you go, even into fire." Suddenly, a tribal horn echoed across the cliffs. A new group of aliens emerged, warriors in ceremonial armor. Led by the elder Virellia, had healed days ago. She walked slowly toward the standoff, supported by 2 aides, but her voice rang loud and proud. "This human saved my life, bound himself to my daughter, and brought honor to our people. If you take him, you declare war." Silence, total, heavy silence. Then the commander's voice returned, low and bitter. "Stand down," he said finally. "This mission is over." The mechs turned slowly and marched away, leaving nothing but deep prints in the wet earth. Carter collapsed to his knees, not from fear but from relief. Virellia knelt beside him, resting her forehead against his. "You didn't just protect me," she whispered. "You chose me." Carter looked into her eyes, filled with starlight, and whispered back, "No more orders. No more running. From now on we write our own rules." The sun rose slowly over Virellia Prime, spilling golden light across the valley like liquid fire. The jungle sparkled from the night's rain, and steam curled above the sacred stones. It was a new morning, but for Carter and Virellia it was more than that. It was a new world after the standoff. The mechs had retreated to their landing site. Their silence was louder than their threats. The official report was left unfinished. No soldiers returned for questioning. No charges were filed. It was as if EarthGov didn't know how to explain what had happened, or maybe they didn't want to explain it at all to the humans. Carter was a problem they couldn't punish to the tribe. He was no longer an outsider, he was family. But to Virellia, he was something far deeper, not just a mate, not just a bond. He was her choice, made in defiance of fear and tradition, and she his. They stood together now in the heart of the temple garden, surrounded by vines that shimmered with alien energy. The elders had gathered not to witness a trial, but a celebration. This wasn't just a joining. This was the first ever union between a human and a Virellian under mutual law, no mistake. No ritual confusion, this was real, chosen freely, openly. Under both suns, Virellia wore ceremonial robes made of woven starlight threads, her head crowned with glowing feathers. Carter wore a simple tunic given to him by the village craftsman, etched with protective symbols. He had never worn anything so humble and never felt more honored. The elder priestess stood between them, voice firm and ancient. "Do you understand the weight of your vow?" she asked. Carter nodded. "I do," Virellia answered softly. "I have always known it." The priestess raised the bind stone above their heads. It pulsed once, then shattered into tiny particles of blue light. Instead of falling, the shards floated upward, joining the sky like fireflies rising toward heaven. The tribe sang a low, haunting chant, a sound that had not been heard for generations. The song of soul bonding, reserved for only the truest of unions. When the light faded, Virellia stepped forward, placing her hands over Carter's heart. "In my people's tongue," she said, "a vow is not spoken once, it is spoken 3 times for past, present, and future." Then she whispered the ancient vow, once in her native language, then in English, "I choose you, I choose you, I choose you." Carter's voice trembled as he repeated the words, "I choose you, I choose you, I choose you." There was no applause, no fireworks, just silence, thick with awe, because everyone present knew something had changed, not just between two people, but between two species. Later that night, they sat beneath the twin moons, fingers intertwined. Carter leaned back against the tree roots, eyes closed. "I was supposed to leave this planet 2 months ago," he said quietly. Virellia smiled. "Then I'm glad the stars ignored your schedule," he chuckled. "You think the galaxy will accept this?" She looked at the stars, her eyes glowing softly. "They may resist it, fight it, deny it, but they will never undo it, because truth once spoken echoes forever." As if on cue, Carter's old communicator lit up, a message from orbit, but not from EarthGov. This time it was from a civilian coalition, a peaceful group of humans and aliens, scientists and thinkers. Their message was simple: "We saw your stand, and we believe in what you've started. Come build with us. Not just a home, but a future." Carter turned to Virellia, showing her the screen. She read the message, then looked at him with soft wonder. "Are you ready to become more than just a symbol?" He squeezed her hand gently. "Only if you're with me." She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Always," she whispered. And in the quiet night, under alien stars, a human and an alien girl sat side by side, no longer torn between worlds, but shaping a new one built not on conquest or protocol, but on love, choice, and a single vow: "I choose you, and always will."